Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we are diving into the really fascinating science of transforming raw, fibrous ginger into an absolute culinary masterpiece. We're going to break down the exact chemistry and the mechanical techniques you need to make perfect pickled ginger at home using what we call the Amazu protocol.
But hey, before we get into the actual science of preservation, think about the last time you ordered takeout from your local sushi spot. Picture that little plastic container of ginger on the side. We need to start by asking a super common yet crucial question. Why is that sushi ginger neon pink? We are so used to seeing this vibrant, almost radioactive color sitting next to our spicy tuna rolls, but I'm about to completely shatter that colorful illusion.
Well, the reality is that neon pink color is a total culinary lie. No way around it. What you're looking at is almost entirely achieved through artificial dyes, specifically red #40, or occasionally a beet juice extract. Commercial restaurants literally just use this to create a uniform, hyper-vibrant aesthetic. True, mature, organic ginger will never naturally look like this under normal pickling conditions. Uncovering this truth really establishes our whole mission for today. We are going to strip away the artificial aesthetics and learn the authentic, highly specific pickling process.
So, here's our game plan to conquer the tough, spicy nature of mature ginger. We're looking at 4 phases. First, unpacking that neon pink illusion, then moving through material selection, transverse shear, the thermal blanch, and finally, creating the Amazu matrix. Let's jump right in.
Starting with Section 1, the neon pink illusion, and uncovering the truth behind that dye.
So, if the commercial stuff we're so used to is chemically altered, what should the real deal actually look like? It honestly requires us to totally reset our visual expectations. As the source material points out, pale yellow or tan is the authentic color of pickled mature ginger. When you do this right, using the standard mature ginger we all buy at the store, you just have to embrace the genuine, unadulterated look of real food.
All right, Phase 1, material selection. Understanding how our raw material dictates the chemical reaction.
You know, getting our starting materials right is the absolute foundation of this protocol, because the biological age of your ginger literally dictates the chemical reactions you're going to get. Let's look at the 2 main types. First, we have the holy grail, organic young ginger, also known as shin shoga. This is a seasonal delicacy. It's got thin, translucent skin, and those cool pink tips are packed with natural anthocyanins that turn a beautiful pale pink when they hit an acidic brine. On the other hand, we have your grocery store standard, organic mature ginger. This has thick, brown, super fibrous skin, it's significantly hotter in flavor, and it just lacks those anthocyanins entirely, so it stays naturally pale yellow.
But, okay, let's say you're hosting a dinner party. You've only got the mature stuff from the supermarket, but you really want that classic pink aesthetic without resorting to artificial chemicals like red #40. Well, here's your hack. You simply introduce a natural dye to the jar. Just toss 1 thin slice of an organic red radish, or maybe a tiny cube of organic red beet, right into your pickling jar. It'll naturally steep and give your mature ginger this incredibly gorgeous, natural pink tint. Problem solved.
Moving on to Phase 2, transverse shear, where we mitigate the cellulose fiber network.
Okay, so we've got our mature ginger. Now we have to conquer its physical structure, which is honestly incredibly tough. Before we slice, we have to peel. And the golden rule here is, do not, I repeat, do not use a standard vegetable peeler. Because ginger is notoriously knobby and weirdly shaped, a peeler will just carve away massive amounts of totally usable flesh. Instead, use what we call the spoon trick. By just firmly scraping the edge of a standard metal spoon against the ginger, you easily take off that thick brown skin while perfectly navigating all those weird, irregular bumps, leaving the actual flesh completely intact. And that brings us to the absolute core mechanical necessity of the whole protocol, the transverse shear. Sounds technical, but mature ginger is basically a dense network of tough fibers. If you want it to be delicate, like melt-in-your-mouth delicate, you absolutely must slice across the grain, perpendicularly. This mechanically severs those tough fibers, and honestly, standard knife skills are rarely precise enough for this. You really need to use a mandolin slicer set to exactly 1 millimeter to get perfectly uniform, paper-thin cuts. And listen, this is exactly where almost everyone messes up at home. If you ignore the transverse shear rule, or if you just kind of hack away at it with a dull kitchen knife, you're going to end up with what the source material brilliantly calls the stringy or unchewable failure. If you accidentally slice parallel to the plant's fibers, wow, your ginger will literally feel like you are chewing on a spool of cotton thread. Slicing across the green with a mandolin is totally non-negotiable.
Okay, Phase 3, thermal blanch. It's time to neutralize the defense mechanisms of the plant.
Right, so we've solved the mechanical fiber problem.
Now we need to tackle the chemical problem, the intense heat. The big chemical antagonist we're dealing with here is called gingerol. It's a highly pungent phenol compound that's just packed into mature ginger. If you were to take those 1 millimeter slices and pickle them raw right now, that gingerol would be entirely too sharp and astringent. It would just completely overwhelm your palate.
So, to mellow out that gingerol compound, we execute a really strict thermal blanch. You're going to bring a pot of water to a rolling boil and drop those paper-thin slices in for exactly 1 to 2 minutes. And that timing, that is your flavor dial. Pull them closer to 1 minute if you want a sharper punch, or leave them in a bit longer for a milder bite. Then, you drain them immediately through a sieve to stop the cooking process, which leads us to, hands down, the most critical part of the prep.
This is the make-or-break moment. While the ginger is still hot from the blanch, you sprinkle it with 1 teaspoon of fine sea salt. Toss it, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then physically squeeze out all the excess water with your hands. Why? Because you are literally extracting the cellular water from inside the plant tissue. If you don't squeeze out that internal water, the ginger has absolutely no room to absorb our flavorful pickling liquid. It's exactly like wringing out a wet sponge so it can actually soak up the brine.
Which brings us to Phase 4, the Amazu matrix. This is our preservation liquid. This is the fun part. We construct this sweet vinegar preservation liquid that ties the entire protocol together. The formula for the Amazu brine is beautifully simple. We're relying on just 3 ingredients to balance out the natural astringency of the ginger. 1 cup of unseasoned organic rice vinegar, 1/3 of a cup of organic cane sugar, and a teaspoon of fine sea salt. Now, you could use honey, sure, but organic cane sugar is definitely preferred because it preserves the crystal clear visual clarity of the liquid way better over time. For the final assembly, you just combine your 3 ingredients in a saucepan and heat them gently over medium, just until they dissolve. But pay close attention here. You absolutely cannot let this mixture boil. Boiling will evaporate the crucial acetic acid found in the vinegar, which totally ruins your preservation power. So, once it's dissolved, put your perfectly squeezed, blanched ginger and your little radish or beet trick, if you're using it, into a sterilized glass jar. Pour that hot Amazu matrix directly over the ginger. Seal it up, let it cool completely to room temp, and pop it in the fridge.
Now, anyone who's done this knows preservation takes a little patience. Here's your aging timeline. At 0 hours, you're sealed up. After just 48 hours, hey, the ginger's officially ready to eat. But patience really pays off here. At the 1-week mark, the chemistry inside that jar hits absolute peak flavor equilibrium. The sweet, the sour, the sharp notes, they'll all be in perfect harmony. From there, you've got a maximum refrigerator shelf life of about 6 full months.
And that is the complete Amazu protocol. You now understand the sheer mechanics of transverse shear, the exact chemistry of the thermal blanch, and the kind of shocking truth behind that artificial red dye. So the next time you grab takeout sushi, ask yourself, are you still going to settle for the fake neon illusion, or are you ready to embrace the pale yellow reality of authentic food science? Try this in your own kitchen and taste the incredible craft of true home preservation for yourself. Thanks for tuning into this explainer, and keep exploring the science hiding in your everyday life.